Welcome, everyone, to another edition of the Tony Sirianni podcast. I'm thrilled to actually be in a slightly different venue, still my house, but it's a different room because we have live guests this time. Charlie Schwartz, thank you for being here, from Benjamin Edwards, and he's in a new role, so we're going to look forward to speaking about it. He looks great in a tie. I got to be honest with you, I'm going to St. Bart's next week, so I'm just wearing clothes that I can't wear in St. Bart's. That's why you're just going to see me in flannel for the next week. That's just the way it is. So tell us about the new role.
Well, sure. Well, first off, Tony, thank you for your hospitality.
Sure.
And of course, for the invite to do this podcast. I know you've been gracious in the past couple of years with the partnership with Benjamin F. Edwards in regards of interviewing our CEO and president, Tad Edwards, our chief operating officer, Doug Rubenstein, and then, of course, also our managing director of business services, which is Chris Keller.
Yeah,
so
great people. It's a lot of fun to do it. So
thank you.
And so tell us a little bit about what you're doing. So your role now is recruiting, right? Building the business.
Yeah. Really, growth, recruiting, branch development. What I'm thrilled with the opportunity that the executives gave me is really, at the end of the day, I get to serve in a player coach role.
Yeah.
So not just with managing the team, but also serving on the front lines in regards of how our team is organized.
That's great.
There's three of us
Yeah.
that we consider ourselves the road warriors, which we're sectioned out by region. Got a couple of internal recruiters that help us along the way. And then, of course, also a team member. She helps us take care of our home office visits.
Look, when we look at the recruiting landscape, it's shifted a lot in the last 10 years.
Sure.
And you and I have talked about this. I've written about it. Sort of, a lot of people are coming to the same conclusions as the independent firms have come to, which is primacy of the advisor-client relationship and transparency. The advisors own their books, things like that. Now you inherited some of that from A.G. Edwards, because a lot of that was the culture of that firm. So you could say maybe, maybe the industry's catching up to you guys.
Well, I look at it, when I joined the legacy firm 24 years ago, I consider myself very blessed, to be able to really sort of come back home.
Yeah.
But you even mentioned it in your 2024 outlook.
Yeah.
That advisors really, they're voting with their feet. And, you look at some of the obstacles that exist out there in regards of firms making compensation changes, maybe changes in the back office in regards of service and support. Maybe even in regards to, what the layers look like out in the field in regards of management up to the senior levels. And
there seems to have been a feeling of, advisors may prefer things a little more stripped down, a little more streamlined, but they still want access to services and those things. They just kind of feel that onerous management is what they don't want. I wish a lot of advisors say, I don't want any management. I don't think that's true. I think if they say that, they haven't had good management that's been accretive, right, to their bottom line.
Sure. Yeah. Well, you bring up a great point because, when it's all said and done, I heard a quote once years and years ago, when I was starting out my career, that people don't always leave firms, they leave managers. And that's an interesting concept when you really reflect on it. I think, and I firmly believe this, that, when you look at Benjamin F. Edwards, we focus on service.
Yeah.
And that is service to protect the advisor-client relationship. Because, since the beginning of our industry, I'm a firm believer, Tony, that hasn't changed. That is the focal point of what we are supposed to do in support roles, regardless of what level you're at.
And the challenge then becomes, hey, we're delivering on this type of service goal without being too onerous. And your role is to grow the firm. So how do you do that and maintain some of that, original good feeling in place?
Sure. Well,
growth has changed, right? So it's part of it.
It certainly has. You look at personalities. We spend a lot of time with potential recruits and prospects in regards of, not just backgrounds and doing our due diligence, but are we a fit for them and are they a fit for us? You know, we're
Yeah.
constantly looking for high integrity, high ethics, but at the same time, to give them the freedom to learn and grow, and learn and grow at their pace, not putting stipulations on production levels need to be XYZ within your first, 2, 3, 5 years, but really assisting in the growth.
Right.
And I think that's a great part of our story up front that, I have the honor to share on a daily basis.
Well, it's, and that's part of this, right? So communication, how do we get the message out there that, this is part of it, but it's also speaks to that it's a one-on-one thing, guys who are, if you hire an advisor who's a jerk, his clients are jerks. I mean, there's no question about it, right? So you got to find nice people.
Yeah. And that's a rule of engagement. I hold my team accountable for that, which is, they're call it the no jerk policy, call it what you want. But when it's all said and done, I mean, you think about the time, the energy, the emotion that you spend, building your own career, helping develop your team members. If you can be around people that like, and trust, I mean, that's a win-win.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, I think today, one of the big things that everyone talks about is equity, right? So enterprise value, equity, those are the buzzwords that are, a part of the recruiting conversation. So what do you guys talk about when you talk about equity?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. Being a private equity firm, my wife and I, we talk about it a lot, that when somebody asks, hey, what do you do for a living? There's a proud moment that, hey, we're a small owner in a private equity firm. And that's the beauty of, I think, a attraction from prospects and recruits to us, is they have the opportunity, once they get settled and transition the book and get their clients, up and running on our systems, they have the opportunity to buy in as an owner. And to be a part of this.
Yeah. That's well, it gets everybody, rowing in the same direction. That's for sure. And I think that's, there are a lot of options out there, in terms of equity and what it means when people are being recruited today. And, I know I've talked to management there that it's a forever private firm. They've been through one of these. They want to make sure that it stays amongst the family, the people who are at the firm.
Well, I may not have the quote perfect, but Doug Rubenstein, our chief operating officer, says it, that it's great to work at a company, that you love and you get to own it, because at the end of the day, we do.
Right.
And I think that statement holds true for any of us, they're equity owner. And, not to get so emotional about it, but like I said, there's, to go back on a statement, Tony, is there's a sense of pride. Every day you wake up, hey, I'm an owner. I'm part of this story. I'm part of this growth, and it's great motivation.
Yeah. I think that when the other pieces, I think advisors they look at and they're concerned about coming to sort of a boutique firm. Even though you guys kind of have a national footprint now, pretty much almost everywhere. But technology products, am I going to be able to keep up? If I come from a wirehouse, for instance, which I know you have a lot of transitions from there,
Sure.
I'm going to have a diminution in services and products.
Well, I think you've seen it across the industry, right, Tony? Is as the field grows, are the executives and the senior management team building the home office to keep up with the growth of the field?
Right.
Because it's something we hear a lot in the recruit meetings is, I call somebody, I can't get a hold of him or her. I'm calling this department, I'm getting 3 different answers from 3 different people, in regards to the same question. Tad holds us accountable again, that we are here and we have these careers and opportunities because of the advisor and the client. And at the end of the day, your role is to support that.
Well, an advisor first mentality.
Well, sure.
Right. So, which is sometimes the opposite of what some firms are firm first, as you know. There are some big bank firms that are firm first. It's not that great. We, another thing that I think advisors, you know, again, we talked a little bit about the last question, but the transitioning, worrying about technology and the transition itself, especially with a smaller firm. And any thoughts on that, what you guys are doing there?
Well, I think we have to remind ourselves, right, of, what is our core business, which is financial services. We're not a software development company.
Right.
We're not a hardware development company. And I think, our executive committee has done a fabulous job, and the leadership of Chris Keller from Business Services that can help us on a daily basis in regards of, clearing
You
services.
can outsource so much, today. I worry actually about, because the next thing is AI that's coming, and some of these big firms are making huge investments in AI. You just think it's going to be obsolete kind of almost as soon as they're done. One of the benefits of being independent, you can cherry pick, sort of the best products in the universe, right?
Mhm.
It's a benefit.
It is. I mean, there's so many resources, online. Clients drive down, their particular streets and neighborhoods. They have so many choices in regards of how to invest their money, where to invest their money. And I just go back to that core relationship. Things are so complex when they really don't need to be. And I think having that individual and that expertise that I can come to you as an advisor and say, look, Tony, here's my family situation. It's not all perfect. We've got speed bumps, we've got challenges, we've got life events, fill in the blank.
Yeah.
To have somebody that like, and trust to guide you and to stand with you through life event changes. I just think that's why maybe next to healthcare, we're probably the second most important thing for any given family.
Yeah, well, yeah, I agree. Look, the role of the advisor, you hope won't go away, because people will want that human touch to all exactly what you're saying. There's a level of empathy that we need to have. One of the things you mentioned was, the player, captain, coach. So talk a little bit about the coach element there.
Sure. I've been just lucky, Tony, throughout my career. I've had just so many wonderful mentors that for whatever reason took their time to help Charlie get from point A to point B. And one of the things that they always asked was, you got to pay it back.
Yep.
I'll give you a great lesson learned, which is, it's one of my favorite quotes that exists out there, which is, the biggest room in the world is the room for improvement. And, I think about that a lot, of how do I help my team members not just improve in their role, but also improve in life, and to know that I'm not just your manager on paper. I'm here to help. I'm here to listen. I'm not perfect. I make mistakes too. But when you've got the support levels that we have at Benjamin F. Edwards, because sometimes I don't know the answer.
Yeah.
And what I promise my team is, I don't know is a great answer. And I may have to knock on the door of a Doug Rubenstein or a Tad Edwards or my immediate manager, Marty Altenberger, and say, look, I need your help.
Yeah.
And that having that open door policy it's incredible.
Well, this brings up a whole nother line of issues with, people coming to work. We talk about next gen a lot. And
of course,
we're in an apprentice business. I have 4 daughters that are from 28 to 22, and they need to be in an office. You just like you said, you need to learn from others. I mean, and that, if we lose that, then we're really in trouble. Then not only do you lose culture, but you lose everything, and you lose, there's a continuity there of watching the best. When you have great players, people emulate them. When you're on your own, I just don't know how you do it on your own. You're starting out.
There's a camaraderie, and I hear it from our branch managers and the advisors across the country, but also our home office team members. When you can just take that break and go laugh with someone, go share an idea, maybe bounce an idea off someone to get their feedback. It just feels, and maybe that's how we are as humans, versus over a screen, where you're just sitting at home by yourself, in any given office or room in your home. That camaraderie, at least for me, to me,
we're not doing
Wonderful.
the next generation any kind of service by having them not come into the office. They're just not learning that way.
You know, I think the other thing here is it also helps in their maturity of their people skills, their communication skills. And in regards of also, as a manager, you got to hold your people accountable, right?
Yeah.
And you know, you got I'm, you know, again, blessed with a wonderful team, you know, people that work hard, they're energetic, but you know, for any given manager in any given industry, you know, you've got to hold your people accountable.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think about what, you know, when I think about, you know, Benjamin Edwards, you know, obviously you've got a legacy, you know, you've got the A.G. Edwards legacy. That's really, that, I think that's important to some people to have, you know, sort of a long lasting, like have continuity, which is something that's missing a lot of times. Now you're in the indie space too with Chris's group.
Sure.
So an advisor that comes has got a choice, you know, and I think that's also the next thing that's happening that needs to happen for firms is you need to have this multi-platform offering because not everybody's all, as long as you and the team, which knowing Doug and Tad, I'm sure they have, and Chris, you do the math right, you know, on how you make the payouts and all this other stuff, you know, work. But it's nice to have that option when you're out there.
Agreed.
Yeah.
You know, I think about you know, really when you study human behavior and you really, you know, get to know any advisor's story, you know, part of our role and responsibility on branch development is to not necessarily tell somebody what to do because we're not in the position of doing that, but is to help guide in regards of, you know, what are the benefits and challenges, you know, of any
And
channel.
advisors have to figure out the math too, because it's not, oh, I get a high payout. Well, yeah, but you know,
However.
at a certain level, right? If you're 8, 9, if you're under $1 million, it's very hard to make that math, you know, work. But if you're 10 million, it's hard to make the other math work.
Right.
So it's just one of those, you know, things that advisors really need to study, I think,
Yep.
you know, when they come. So it is that totality that they look at, you know, what kind of options do I have? And, you know, and I guess your job is player, captain, coach, you gotta put it all out in front of them.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And you know, I think about how simplified our compensation plan is on the full service side. You know,
Yeah.
it doesn't fit on a cocktail napkin. It fits on the corner of a cocktail napkin.
But that's important too, because
Sure.
I mean, geez, I was a manager. I remember having to sell the new comp plan every year. And I think my advisors really liked me. That was always a contentious meeting. And I always had to go in there and say, guys, look, I'm gonna help you. We're gonna figure out how to make this work for you. You know, I didn't create this thing. But it was a challenge every year.
Well, and even on our Edwards Wealth Management side, you know, for the independent side, you know, we create a pro forma, which really what we're trying to do with the math is come down to the number that the eyeballs immediately go to.
Right.
We call it the EBOC, which is at the end of the day, the earnings before owner's compensation. And you know, that one pager of that particular pro forma, that's where you see the light bulbs go on because they see the line items of everything on the independent side that is just part of the package. And I think it comes down to, again, human behavior in regard of what do they want. Yeah,
because it's not always numbers driven.
Right.
You know, I mean, and people, I think make a mistake that financial advisors are, you know, check driven, numbers driven, and that's, well, you've known that you haven't built that firm with a bunch of mercenaries. You built it with a bunch of friends.
Mm-hmm. There. A lot of friends of the firm, you know, a lot of individuals and team members that, you know, have a lot of pride, you know, in what they're doing and servicing their clients and building their branches. And it's just been an incredible story. Well, I'm going to leave it at that because believe it or not, I think we're at our time thing. But I always like to, I'm like Jerry Lewis. I want to end on a high note. Sure. So that's good. Well, thanks so much for being here and, thank you very
doing
much,
this
Tony.
live. It's been kind of fun. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you again.